Hello everyone, and welcome to the CSS Security Mini Briefing, where we will present a short summary of what was released today, September 14th, 2021. My name is Josh Daniel, and I'm a Security Program Manager in the Customer Service and Support Organization here at Microsoft. We're going to start this video with an overview of the release. We'll talk about a couple of issues that have been in the news lately, and then we'll dive right into a few vulnerabilities. Please note that the details of the vulnerabilities we are covering in this video may change, and the authoritative location for information will always be the online content in the Security Update Guide. All right, so September brings us a brand new month full of new vulnerabilities, and this month we have 87 total vulnerabilities that are being addressed this month. That's right in line with our average over the last 13 months of about 85. When we look at the number of critical vulnerabilities, September brings a lower number of addressed vulnerabilities. This month there's only 3 critical vulnerabilities, and over the past 13 months we've been seeing just over 11. When we look at remote code execution vulnerabilities, this month we have 17, and we've been averaging just around 29 over the past 13 months. When we look at the highest scored vulnerability this month, we see a vulnerability rated at 9.8 on a scale of 10, so elevated, almost as high as it can get. And our average over the past year or so has been 9.6. When we look at the average score across the entire release, we see an average of 7.14, and that's right in line with our average of 7.26. When we look at the number of publicly disclosed vulnerabilities this month, we have 3, and we've been seeing about just under 3 over the last year, so right around average. And finally, when we look at the vulnerabilities that are known to be exploited at the time of release, this month we have 1, and we've been seeing about 1.5 over the past year or so. So let's talk about a vulnerability that's been in the news lately. After the August release, there was a vulnerability that was disclosed. This is CVE 2021-36958, and this is a remote code execution vulnerability in the print spooler. As I mentioned, this vulnerability was disclosed in August. Unfortunately, there were no updates associated with this at that time. September brings us updates for this vulnerability. So previously we had some mitigations in there, some workarounds, and frankly that didn't work for everyone to disable the print spooler. And so now we have an update that fully resolves this issue. As you can see on the right hand side, the affected software is all versions of Windows that are in support. So please be aware that this is closing the loop on that vulnerability that was discussed back in August. And the second vulnerability we'll talk about in this section, this is CVE 2021-40444, and this is with MS-HTML. This is another remote code execution vulnerability. The severity here is important. As I mentioned, publicly disclosed, and we've noticed exploitation of this vulnerability. This vulnerability was first disclosed earlier this month in September. Again, no updates were released when we documented the vulnerability. We did have some mitigation and workarounds documented in the CVE. With the September release, we now have updates to address this issue, so those mitigations and workarounds are no longer required. Now, if you want to keep them in place to further cripple Internet Explorer, which is going away, that's perfectly fine. Or if you need to undo those mitigation, that works as well. You'll still be protected as long as you have the September cumulative update or monthly rollups installed in your systems. So again, there's 2 vulnerabilities that were released since two vulnerabilities that were documented since our last release in August, and both of these CVEs have updates in today's release. So please go ahead and install those updates right away and protect your systems as best you can. So let's move into new vulnerabilities that were documented today, and the first one we'll talk about is CVE 2021-36965, and this is in the WLAN AutoConfig service. This is another remote code execution vulnerability listed as critical severity, privately disclosed to Microsoft, and no known exploits out in the wild. As we can see, the base score is 8.8 on a scale of 10, and that may not be the highest score that we've seen this month, but it's still elevated, and please take note of this vulnerability. The affected software, as we can see on the right-hand side, is all versions of in-support Windows. So please be aware, there's an update this month that addresses this. There's no special steps here for you. If you install the cumulative update or the monthly roll-up or the security-only update, you are protected from this vulnerability. Next, let's take a look at CVE 2021-38647. This is a remote code execution vulnerability in the Azure Open Management Infrastructure component. This is another critical severity vulnerability, not publicly disclosed, nor are there any known exploits out in the wild. So this is a vulnerability that has the 9.8 on a scale of 10, so certainly very elevated. As we can see here, no privileges required, no user interaction is required, and so that's pushing the score here, so high. There are no mitigations, no workarounds to this vulnerability. However, if you take a look at the CVE article itself, you'll see a few action items that you can take. Specifically, there is a GitHub repository that you can navigate to. And in that GitHub repository is more information about how you can protect yourself. Specifically, you can download the bits that you'll need, and you can also in the FAQ section of the CVE, it talks about how you can determine whether or not you are vulnerable. So again, take a look at the CVE article. And if you have any questions, they should be answered in that CVE article regarding this vulnerability. So if you do have Azure Open Management Infrastructure in use in your environment, again, please note there's an update for you. The action item is to go to the GitHub repository, which is linked in the CVE article, and go ahead and update your environment and get yourself protected from this vulnerability. And with that, I will talk to you next month. Thank you.